All right, good evening, and welcome to the District of Sechelt regular meeting of council of Thursday, October 6th, and this is our last council meeting of this term. There is an amended agenda, and while it was sent out earlier, the actual amendment wasn't sent out until later this afternoon. So I'm just wanting to confirm that everybody has that piece of correspondence that's been added to the agenda. Seeing some nods. You guys are good? Okay, good. All right, so I'd look for a motion to, first of all, any conflict of interest in this, with this agenda? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Sorry, Darnell, I have a conflict with 10.2.
Sorry, 10.2, okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any conflicts? Thank you. All right, look for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. I'm sorry, but there's no interactions today? We're during the election period.
My name is Jerry Patterson.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The agenda was set, and per Council's procedure bylaw, all items have to be set on the agenda several days ago, and we don't amend it at this time. So there's no possibility for anybody to be added to the agenda at this time as a delegation. Ms. Patterson, would you please sit down? Your Worship, I'm not going to argue with this person as chair of the meeting. You, of course, have some leeway under Robert's rules, but I've explained that I don't think this is appropriate.
Thank you. Okay, so we have somebody who's approached the microphone and is requested to appear as a delegation tonight. It's not on the agenda. Director Toth. Councillor Toth, sorry.
It's okay. We were at a regional district thing earlier. I guess my only question would be, what would be the purpose?
The purpose would be to speak to item 10.2 on tonight's agenda.
Thank you. So there is a request for a delegation to appear before us with regards to item 10.2. I'll put it to a vote of council. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Yeah, it's been ignored. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item number 2 on the agenda, the adoption of receive the staff reports. Look for a motion to receive. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. We have no appointments or delegations. Moving on to number 4, proclamations. So this is item 4.1. It's a proclamation for Foster Family Month, October 2022. Whereas this year marks the 32nd year of celebrating the caregivers who have stepped up time and time again when they are needed most, and whereas thousands of British Columbian foster parents and families provide alternate family care for children temporarily unable to live with their families, and whereas foster families are an integral and valued part of the team that helps children return to their families, live with extended family, or make the transition to an adoptive family, and whereas foster families from diverse cultural backgrounds, including Indigenous foster families, support all children and youth to maintain their cultural heritage, learn about and practice their cultural traditions, customs, and language, and belong to their community. And whereas fostering is a community responsibility and provides opportunities for all community members to contribute to the support of children and youth, now therefore, I, Darnell de Seegers, on behalf of the District of Sechelt Council, do hereby proclaim that the month of October 2022 shall be known as Foster Family Month in the District of Sechelt. Sorry, we're smelling something burning over here. I smell it now too. Yeah.
For those who are online, we're just investigating a potential issue with some equipment in the room right now. We'll be back in a moment.
Okay, we don't really know what it is, but we're going to move forward. Moving on to item 5.1. This is adoption of the minutes of the previous council meeting, the minutes of the 7 p.m. regular council meeting of September 21st. First, any errors or omissions in these minutes? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt as presented. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we will move on to item 8.1. This is the zoning bylaw 580, and it's before us for adoption. And I'm going to turn over to our Director of Planning.
Yes.
You're just saying it's asphalt work at the crosswalk.
Correct.
We're smelling.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. We were thinking there was an electrical fire or something happening.
I walked outside to see our Public Works division over there laying a piece of asphalt. And so
Thank you.
everything is good. At any rate, this was previously before council, and the bylaw does have third reading at this point, and we swiftly followed up with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, who have approved the bylaw pursuant to the Transportation Act and zoning bylaw 580, and its attachments, Schedule A, the bylaw, as well as the map attachments are now eligible for adoption. And staff are pleased to recommend adoption of zoning bylaw 580, along with the repeal of zoning bylaw 25, and recommend fourth reading this evening, which also is known as adoption. And pleased to make that recommendation, and thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions, comments? Seeing none, I will turn to page 19, item 8.1B. This is District of Sechelt bylaw number 580-2022, a bylaw to establish zoning bylaw 580-2022 for the District of Sechelt. And I look for a motion for adoption. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Now, is there also a recommendation to repeal? Hang on, let me get back to the beginning of that. Do we need to make a motion to repeal bylaw 25?
It forms a part of bylaw 580 itself, which includes a section that does automatically repeal zoning bylaw 25 upon adoption.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
That is complete. Moving on to item 8.2, page 138. Sorry?
We approved the report, except to actually do the reading.
I did the reading.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Smelling burden.
All right, 8.2A, page 138. This is 2020 permissive tax exemption amendment, bylaw number 585-2, 2022. Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members and council, we gave this bylaw 3 readings at the last meeting. The adoption must be before the end of October, as we have to register properties to the BC assessment for their consideration. The reason for the bylaw was there's this one address change where they combined 2 lots that previously had permissive into one and gave it a new folio. So recommendation is to adopt.
Thank you. So there's a recommendation on page 138. Councillor Toth.
I'll move recommendation 2, the council proceed with adoption of 2020 permissive tax exemption amendment bylaw number 585-2, 2022 to combine 2 properties owned by Sunshine Coast Community Services.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Have we frozen? Oh, let's try it again. All those in favor? Go ahead.
Your Worship, the in-room display program seems to be having a little bit of a glitch. So the YouTube is running, the Zoom is running, everybody can hear us. It's just the monitors in the room here are freezing and dropping periodically. I'm optimistic that that will resolve when we have our presentation that's coming up shortly.
My feed is also.
Yeah, ours is freezing. Okay, so let's try it again. All those in favor? Perfect, thank you.
And just for the record, it's completely fine on my end, so I'm not missing anything.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to number 9, new business. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, I have a couple of things that I wanted to, just some questions I wanted to ask staff with regards to the permit process, number one, and then the second part is with regards to WRC. Go ahead. Okay. So anyways, apparently the District of Sechelt, we've brought in a process for the building permit process, and it's called a cloud permit. And so, so anyways, I was just totally unaware of that, and I have a building permit going through the process, and when it just came down to the final things, I just was made aware of it. So is there, when you make your application, so is there a time set aside, like, to meet with a developer, or so they can, you can go through the process, so you can understand what you have to bring in? I think from my understanding is this lays out everything very nicely, where in the build process that I went through, it's like every time we brought something in, there was more, we needed more clarity on what was going on. But it seems to be, is that correct?
Okay, I think what he's asking is, what is the process now for developers who come in and and we're using the cloud permit? Just some clarity for the community, what's happening.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer Councillor Lamb's question. Yeah, so one of the key benefits, of course, is that it's electronic submission. I know that particularly when you've got architectural plans for complex buildings or large houses, the many sheets, and it was getting difficult and cumbersome for people to find printers to organize paper submissions. Now it's a drag and drop with PDF and whatnot. So you as a property owner would set up a profile. If you appoint somebody such as an architect or a business agent to act on your behalf, they would set up an applicant profile. There's electronic communication throughout the process, particularly at the beginning, after each inspection. We do, of course, particularly in this transition period, meet with folks or willing to meet with folks. We've done that over the phone. We have a property owner from North Vancouver who's not here, so we've been speaking with him on the phone a fair amount. And then we get to help get profiles set up. Sometimes when it's just an individual, maybe they're applying for a deck or an accessory building, it's not quite the same level as other permits. They show up at the front counter. We have both reception, building technical staff, as well as inspectors willing and able to help out. I think where we've seen a measured level of success so far, you take Trellis or the houses at Silverstone Heights, we go out and do inspections. Assuming they pass an inspection, they have record of past inspection on their phone before the inspector even drives away. And from my understanding is that they're thrilled with that. So off to a good start, and there's always opportunity to meet with folks who want to make a submission and don't yet have a profile, and do the best we can.
Okay, and so every permit, every building permit now comes through the same process?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. What about if a developer comes in and wants to do a land development, is that under the same process also?
Yes, great question. Not yet. And myself and Mr. Hall and Mr. Kobowitz met with the folks from Cloud Permit recently, had a demo to see how that might work also for development permits, rezoning applications. And it seems like it's a nice module that could fit in quite well with the building. And then you'd have your same profile and you would watch your application move through the process and know where you are in timeline. So that might be a modest budget request coming up for the 2023 budget, but we see value in it, particularly with the increase in application fees we've seen in recent years, and definitely see value for business continuity as well as increased efficiency.
Perfect. Anyways, my understanding is that Gibson's works under the same program.
Yes, I believe so.
So, you know, this is, for me, it's awesome because, you know, our communities always seem to be, you know, Gibson's doing something else, CR is doing something else, SIGD, everybody. So it's nice to see us finally working together to bring some continuity and a bill that goes from one community to the other. And it's the same, basically the same format. You bet.
And we know full well that there's builders that build in Gibson, Sechelt, and SCRD. And ideally, if they've got cloud permit accounts and knowledge, then it should be a little more seamless. And I'll take the opportunity to, pardon me, give credit to both Mr. Nias and Ms. Beth Smith. They work together seamlessly, so you can pay online through the program as well. And that's a huge step up for us also. So I think all things considered, it's new software, but I think our team has put together a great product, and we're looking forward to really, truly rolling it out as we move forward.
Yeah, it's good. You know, from what I've heard, I've actually talked to a couple of contractors once I found out what was going on, and you know, I'm not a computer person, so cloud permit really got me. Yeah. But it was good, and the feedback from the contractors to me was very good.
Excellent.
So I like that. And the only thing that really caught me off guard in the end was, you know, they asked for a certified check. You know, we're going through all this computer stuff and the whole thing, and then they asked for a certified check. That I know what that is, but Dalton might not. Councillor Toth might not.
No, I know that part of me, if I may, and that's something we're working on. I mean, of course, when it comes to larger, substantial fees, then there's potential hit that you have to pay to MasterCard or Visa. But we're working on identifying particularly what that suitable level is, and I think we'll increase it to make it congruent with your typical building permits.
Perfect, thank you. Can I roll over to my other one now? So the WRC, so we were supposed to have a sewer committee meeting last week, and it was canceled. And, you know, one of the things for me going through this whole process here for 4 years has been trying to find out where you know, if the meter's working and if I can follow the meter on my phone. So, anyways, I'm just wondering, did we get a meter up to speed and running now?
Thank you for the question, through your worship. The meters have been running now for a couple months. They've been collecting data. They collect them in real time, and we're able to view them. So we're assessing that right now, and we're going to compile a few months of it. And we've also are very close to issuing a request for proposal for sanitary sewer modeling and a master plan. So the information we gather from that flow meter will be part of the modeling exercise as well. But they are up and running and collecting data. Thank you.
That's awesome. And then it just, you know, there's so much misinformation out in the community because the WRC is designed at this moment to have a capacity of about 4,000 cubic meters a day. And my understanding, it's running around 2,000. And maybe with this drier period, we might be a little bit less than that. I'm not really too sure, but it just...
Actually, this is a timely question, as I was just discussing this with our manager of wastewater, and she mentioned that we have currently seen our lowest flows into that facility on record. I believe it's about 1,900 cubic meters during this dry spell. So to put that in perspective, the high period was observed last year during the atmospheric river, and that was around 4,900 cubic meters. So that's about a 3,000 cubic meter day difference. So that's kind of the range we're seeing depending on drought versus atmospheric river conditions. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. I'm happy. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to tag on to Councillor Lamb talking about the WRC. Yeah, as he mentioned, the sewer commission meeting was canceled for last week. Do we know yet when we might have another one? Just wondering if we've heard back yet.
Again, thank you for the question, through your worship. There was some kind of event with the Sechelt Indian Government District, so they couldn't attend the last meeting. I put it back to them to offer a date for us so we can work around. Did not get a date from them, and so then I proposed dates to them, and I have not heard back on if those dates are going to work for them. I will pick up the phone next week if I don't hear anything back. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go back to our agenda. Item 10.1, direct digital controls at the Operations Center. And Ms. Mayor's over to you. Oh, over to staff.
Okay. Well, I will introduce Julie Mares, who is our project manager, been working a lot on these files. She's been doing a ton of work on the new Operations Center, and she's going to speak about direct digital controls and why they should save money on energy, and why now would be a good time to incorporate that into the Operations Center. So without ado, I'll introduce Julie.
Thank you. Bear with me, this is my first time at council, so thank you. I'm here to request direct digital controls, known as DDCs, at the new Operations Center. They create more energy efficient buildings and promote employee comfort and productivity. Why do we want a DDC? And what is it? The programming behind our HVAC systems and equipment. So you can see in that picture, there's Dylan working on the computer, looking at our systems, how the boilers and fans are working, and what the temperature is inside and outside. So it's basically the brains behind our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Some of the benefits of a DD system is improved energy efficiency by maintaining consistent temperatures and program capability, and cost savings, which are from reduced service calls and reduces natural gas and hydro consumptions. The second is enhancing occupant comfort. It stabilizes temperatures and keeps employees' level of comfort consistent through all seasons. Is just interior temperatures based on exterior temperatures. It has sensors in and outside. The third one is it provides proactive maintenance and longer equipment. Basically, our boilers aren't running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We heat the building when it needs to be heated, and we cool it when it needs to be cooled. The third one is reduces in-house and contract service hours. So our facility maintenance manager, Dylan, has about 50% less calls with a DDC program. We also hire a contractor to come in and fix our boilers and our programming. And with a DDC system, his calls were, in 2019, they were 16 coming from Vancouver, and in 2020, there was 0, which is approximately about a $50,000 savings to us. We have the DDC system at the Justice Building, and we have it here at Municipal Hall. So we have improved occupant comfort, and you can talk to staff about that. We have less service calls, and we have cost savings. Some of the cost savings we have seen at the District Hall is that in 2018, we used 851 gigajoules of energy for natural gas. And in 2021, we used 364 gigajoules of energy. So that's a saving of about 487 gigajoules of energy. That's approximately 11,000 propane tanks or 12,000 liters of gasoline, so quite a bit of savings. We're requesting to have $25,000 to put in phase 1 of a DD system at the new Ops Center during the framing stage, so we can put the wiring and all the conduits in at this stage. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Councillor Rowe?
Okay, so $25,000 for phase 1. So what does phase 2 look like?
Phase 2 would come out, would be in the next year's budget. It will be presented to council, and it would be all the thermostats, the actual computer modeling that we already have, but it will just be building on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other, Councillor McLean?
Yeah, so I understand why we had to upgrade it at Municipal Hall and the Justice Services Building. Those were older systems. But to me, this just seems like the modern standard of what you use in HVAC systems. So why is it not being proposed in the original design for their operation center? This is a brand new building. I would think that this is the base level for any modern building.
Right, so the design build, at the time it was being developed, the DVC was not identified yet to be used in our buildings, and there wasn't enough sufficient amount of evidence to prove its value in that particular expenditure.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Todd?
Not a question, just a comment. You know, in my previous life, I actually got to work with a lot of control systems, and it's huge. It makes a massive difference being able to do this at this stage of the game rather than retrofitting it in later. So I'm happy to move recommendation 2, that council approve an additional $25,000 for direct digital controls at the new operations center to be funded from the capital reserve.
And is there a seconder? Seconded. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you. Great job. All right, item 10.2, and we're going to lose Councillor Scott. And I'm going to move to page 149. So this is the lease agreement for Suncoast Recreation Aircraft Association. And Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this report is to introduce a 20-year lease to the Suncoast Recreation Aircraft Association for the purpose at the airport to have a lease that the last time they were under a lease was in 1994, and they've been basically operating from month to month or year to year, and you know, they do have some plans that they would like to try and achieve there, but without a longer term lease, there was no way they're going to be able to achieve that. So we've been talking with them off and on for quite some time about a lease. There were problems from staff's perspective at the previous lease area, and they still wanted to hold enough land so that they could do some development up there of their own, of hangars. And so just recently we came to an agreement on land size. It's one of the last pages in the report / agreement. Prior, their land was quite a bit wider, and it kind of went from tree line all the way over to the next set of buildings. And what it kind of did was made it so that we as the district couldn't develop that field that's up there into other hangars. And so we eventually agreed, both parties, to a bit of a U-shaped lot that they can put tie downs in one area with the plan to have some hangars in another area. And then I've kind of divided up into what I would call Area A, B, and C. And Area A is their clubhouse, and so that one is, you know, secured long-term for them, which they were very happy with. So, so with that, staff are looking for endorsement of this lease. And if you look on page 165, it shows you the new area of the lease.
Councillor Todd?
Thank you. I've got 2 questions. One, well, they're both for clarification. On page 153, section 2.4, where it actually talks about the rent, it reads to me like there is an inflationary increase every year on that $50, but then also we can up the rent if something, like if we make substantial changes to the airport, that land is drastically undervalued. I think we can make additional adjustments to the rent. I just wanted to confirm that. And then the other question was, not being overly familiar with the layout of the surrounding areas of the airport, that map didn't provide enough scale for me. So I'm just wondering where in relation to the other buildings this is. Thank you.
Okay, so the $50, it doesn't fall under the inflationary. What happens is if they build hangars there, they will have additional rent to pay on top of the $50, and it would be based off a land lease rate that would equal the size of the hangar, and that it would become inflationary. So now so that's their long range plans. The tie down area is they would be for their revenue, and that would fall within the $50. The lease outlines that they can't charge any less than the district for that area. Currently, it's different, and we wanted to make sure there was a level playing field on that. And could you just go over your last question? Sorry.
The second question was where this site is in relation to some of the other structures that are on the airport property, just because the map doesn't really give a wider sense of scale.
Okay, so you're looking at the map. To the right is a big field. Do you know you're not sure where their clubhouse is? No. Oh, okay. So I believe just hang on. The Spaney is number 20. I don't know if you know where that one sits. Okay, and so there's just a tract of land between, Spaney and the current clubhouse. And so the U has been made there so that that becomes kind of a runway, or not runway, an area that they can drive planes on, whether it's their own members or not their own members.
Okay, thank you. So that's between the clubhouse and okay, thank you.
All right, I have a question. Well, a comment actually. Page 152, under rent, it talks about Zone B and Zone C. And it says Zone B, if they don't start building hangars, then it will revert to the district. So is that at the end of the 20 years, or is there a time frame in there?
So one of the options that staff wanted was that if we started to build out the field, and the field became populated with hangars, and we still had more interest in that area, and after a 5-year period, if RAA hadn't started building hangars, that we could come to an agreement to have that area revert back to the district, and then we could put it out for development of hangars.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, I'm going to show a little bit of my lack of knowledge of the airport, but hopefully somebody can help me out. So my general understanding is that these guys play a kind of host role for the airport. So if you have a visiting airplane coming in, they provide a place to tie down, they provide a place to use the washroom, and they're kind of like that welcoming aspect to recreational air users. Is that correct? And is there any provision in the lease to provide those services?
Generally, if they have an association in a different airport, or members from a different aircraft association come into Sechelt, then yes, they play a role in welcoming them and allowing them to tie down on their area. But generally, for an airport for a aircraft that comes in that's really not associated with another association or club, they don't play that role. And no, nothing's been built into the lease for that.
Okay. Thank you. So that's generally my understanding. That's great. So I guess these guys are going to play a major role in the development of the airport. I look to the Victoria Airport, major international airport, but they have a very strong Victoria Flying Club, who, if you actually get a charter flight from our airport over there, you go through the Flying Club. So I could see them being a really key partner in the development of the airport and kind of providing that stepping stone as it develops. So my concern here is that this lease doesn't reflect that importance, and it doesn't really bring that aspect of partnership. It essentially says, here's the land, $50 a year, do with it as you wish. But I think we can really leverage this partnership and build the airport if we work together. And the key thing about working together is, like, we need our airport master plan. We need to figure out where we're going. So with this 20-year lease, it seems to kind of jump over the airport master plan, and it's less of a collaborative approach. So if I'm thinking of a more ideal approach to this, it'd be signing something like a 5-year lease. And then we can renegotiate once we know more with the airport master plan and work together, so we can really build the airport in a collaborative sense.
Thank you. Mr. Douglas?
Thank you for the question, Councillor McLean. The district has another partner that it works with more so in that aspect, the Aero Club that's up there. They have a building that's very close to the parking lot at the airport. You basically just go through the fence and you're probably in about maybe 200, 250 meters, and there's a building there that's used to either hold passengers if another plane has come in or is about to leave. So we have another group under agreement for that. But the RAA wouldn't be able to do any building of any sort without a 20-year lease. Nobody would give them a loan or anything like that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I see my issue. I got the two mixed up. I think this is really caters to the recreational airport, recreational air users. So yeah, I got you. I disregard my comment because I got them mixed up there.
Thank you. Any other questions? No other questions? All right, there is a recommendation on page 149. What would you like to do? Councillor McLean.
I guess I'll move it. I'll move recommendation 2 that council approve the Suncoast Recreational Aircraft Association lease for a 20-year term, and the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the required airport lease agreement as presented.
Is there a seconder? All those in favor? Thank you. And can we bring Councillor Scott back? Thank you, and welcome back. Item 10.3, Select Committee End of Term Report. And we'll turn over to the Deputy Corporate Officer.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this report is to bring back a summary of actions and activities that were completed by the select committees over the course of the 2018 to 2022 term, and to seek direction from council on the continuation of those committees.
Thank you. Councillor, carry on without you? You're on here, we can see you.
Yeah, I know, it's just totally being weird, just carry on.
All right. So there are, the number of committees are listed on here on page 166. Does anyone want to make any comments or have any questions about these 4 committees at this point?
Thank you.
Councillor Scott?
Yeah, as far as the airport committee goes, I think it needs to keep going once we get the information back from the master plan. And So that would be a good one. The Harbor Committee, geez, you know, we got stalemated there, and maybe you had mentioned that that Chief Paul had talked about getting together on creating that harbor authority again, and maybe the new council will be able to continue on with it and hopefully do some cleanup of the derelict boats and stuff like that. So I would recommend that they would both continue into the new council term. There's merit in it.
Okay. Would we want to continue? I mean, I totally agree with the airport one. Sorry, but the harbor expansion, at this point, I don't know if the terms of reference for it would, I mean, I know what you're looking at doing and working with the nation on moving something forward, but it may be that the way it's constituted right now might not be the form that it would use going forward.
Yeah, that would be fair. We could probably relook at the terms there.
Okay. Water Resources Select Committee. I think we could probably wrap that one up. We started it here in the District of Seafield, and then the regional district actually set up a water advisory committee, which is a majority of the people on our Water Resource Select Committee actually joined that committee at that point. And that is still going at the regional district. And they're going to be doing the work around long-term water sources for the Sunshine Coast. So I would suggest that the Water Resources Select Committee actually fold up at this point. Anybody have any issues with that? Councillor Lamb, are you okay with that?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of interesting because I did chair that meeting, that committee for a bit, but I ran into a couple of the fellows that sat on that board, and they're pretty knowledgeable gentlemen, and it would be interesting to see what the next council would come up with. I would prefer to see the next council make that decision. Yeah.
So make the decision whether or not this committee would, so wrap the committee now, but potentially bring it back in another form, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. You could. Yeah. Exactly. Because there's just so much work to be done, and these, you know, the two gentlemen that were sat on that committee, that they're pretty knowledgeable, and it would be a disappointment to see them not participate as we move forward. Thanks.
Okay, so at this point, though, we could wrap up the committee, and yeah, I think there's merit in having something like that, but maybe more Seashell focused going forward. But that would be a conversation for the next council.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. Yes.
Okay. Downtown Revitalization Select Committee, Councillor Todd.
Now that I got my camera going again. Myself and Councillor Tuster were appointed to this committee, but unfortunately we never actually adopted terms of reference for this committee. I remember the conversation well, and it was something that was felt that we didn't need at the time, given some of the work that our communication manager at that time was doing with the Downtown Business Association and the Chamber. I think it's going to be important for the next council to pick this up. But, you know, in the interim, I'm fine with wrapping it up, and they can do what they want with it. You know, we've talked about, you know, downtown plan, things like that. It might be better to reform it as something different when that time comes. So, yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we would look for a recommendation to terminate the Downtown Revitalization Select Committee, Water Resources Select Committee, and Harbor Expansion and Development Select Committee, and continue on with the Airport Development Select Committee. Councillor Todd?
Thank you. I only sort of partially caught Councillor Scott's comments while I was trying to figure out my technical issues here. The Airport select committee, I mean, the whole point of the select committees is that they're formed for a purpose and then they get dissolved. Was the intention, Councillor Scott, I apologize, I missed your comments, was that it should carry on until that master plan is done? Or were you thinking of transitioning to like a more advisory committee type of form?
Well, I think there's still a lot of work that still needs to happen once we get that master plan in place. So I would see that committee continuing with the new council. The current membership, the public membership within the committee is still effective. So, but the new council could decide if they want to continue with the same people or not.
So I think I'm hearing two different things here. One is that there is some work to be done. We've got the airport master plan that will be in process soon, hopefully. And I think that plan may determine what happens with the airport committee at that point. It might be dissolved in its current format and something else actually come into play to actually look at fulfilling on that airport master plan. Right.
Correct.
So currently there's still some work to get that master plan piece in place. And I think the committee that's in place now could be instrumental in moving that piece forward.
Right. They'll have some input into the master plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. All right. So would someone like to make that recommendation? Councillor McLean, over to you.
I'm just going to ask a question that I think I know the answer to, but I'll ask it and then I'll have a few comments. To the Deputy Corporate Officer, there was also a Housing Advisory Committee. Why is that not listed here?
Through your worship, the advisory committee is more of a long-standing committee, is my understanding. So as Councillor Toth mentioned, the select committees are established for a specific purpose and they end, or they are to be reevaluated after a certain period of time. I believe those criteria were not included in the terms of reference for the advisory committee. I could be wrong.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. That's what I thought. I just wanted confirmation on that. Sorry. I'm just going to use this as a little opportunity to speak to the Housing Advisory Committee. I think we spent a lot of time spinning our wheels and trying to figure out what the purpose of that committee was. It also suffered from a lack of staff capacity. So that wasn't staff's fault. Council didn't assign that priority. It was essentially left to the committee members to make progress. So I think when looking at these committees moving forward, there also needs to be a serious conversation about what kind of staff time council wants put into these committees. And having that established from the forefront, I think will make these a lot more successful right across the board. Because getting citizen voices involved is valuable. But at the end of the day, the staff are the ones doing a lot of the implementation. So thinking of how that relationship works a bit better, I think will be critical in all of these. So actually my preferred route forward for all of these is to leave them standing and let the new council decide. We have terms of reference. They're welcome to change them. They're welcome to fold them. Are these still priorities? If we end them now, we have taken that decision away from the new council. And for example, saying no more downtown revitalization committee, they don't have to make that decision. It doesn't come to the council table unless they take it there. So we can leave these running and defer it to the next council, and then they have to make a real decision. Do they want community involvement in these issues? Do they want people working on them? Or should we just deprioritize them and focus more on regular efforts?
And I would disagree at this point, just because the committees, the select committees, would actually come out of strategic planning with the new council. Right. So once they actually do those strategic plan, items and look at what their priorities are, then they can set up committees that will move those priorities forward. So this is more of a housekeeping item at this point for us. These were committees that we were using to move some of our initiatives forward. And we'd leave the rest of it up to the new council. Go ahead.
Just a comment, I'm thinking about Councillor McLean and the housing committee that we sat on and spinning wheels and all that, but let's not forget that the emergency housing session came out of that committee that you led, and you know, it is alive and well in our community through the housing action table. So outside of the airport, there was a lot, the airport committee, there was a lot of action that came out of that committee, mostly due to your diligence in pushing it forward, Councillor McLean. So I just want to acknowledge that publicly. So I'm happy to make a motion that we, what's the word I'm looking for, and terminate the Downtown Revitalization Select Committee, Water Resource Select Committee, and the Harbor Expansion and Development Select Committee, and leave the Airport Development Select Committee active.
Is there a seconder for that recommendation? Seconded. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you. Moving on to item 10.4, Engineering and Operations Division Capital Updates. Any questions or comments? Councillor Topp.
Thank you. It's a small question, but the district-wide pavement marking, I notice in the areas where the pavement marking has been done that the paint seems to be a far superior product to what's been used in the past. I'm just wondering if, like, do we know if it is a different product or it just whatever the vendor provided? Because it seems much more reflective than it has been in the past.
Thank you for the question, through your worship. The painting programs procured through our normal procurement practices, and I believe it's whatever the vendor provided in this case. So maybe they've gone to a more superior product or one that looks that way. But I will definitely pass that feedback along to the manager of municipal construction and infrastructure renewal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Inlet Avenue Road improvement. So we're waiting for the archaeological permits?
Yes, that's correct, Your Worship. We're waiting for that archaeological permit, and additionally 3 others on different projects. We will now be compiling our archaeological permit requests and submit monthly reports to the archaeological branch to figure out the status of these. There has been a bit of a backlog there in processing these permits. We've stressed to them the importance of this one, given the grant timeline that's involved. So we have done our assessment work, and we're just waiting on the permit right now. But the design work continues. Thank you.
Okay, so I mean, that kind of is where I was going. We've got a deadline, I think, the end of the year on that grant. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Your Worship. We are preemptively going to ask for an extension or possibility of an extension on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Todd?
Thank you. Following up on archaeology, knowing that we're going to be replacing the Wakefield lift station, is that something that staff are looking at getting a jump start on the archaeology while we go through procurement and all the work that we have to do otherwise?
Thank you. Another great question, through Your Worship. Yes, we have. We've completed the PFR, which is the preliminary field reconnaissance assessment for that particular project. And we have a meeting booked next week with some new archaeologists we're working with to see how we can advance. So it's being incorporated. And Julie Mayers, who presented earlier, is the project manager for that particular project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, thank you again for the report. We do appreciate it. Moving on to item number 11.1, council reports. We'd like to start, and then I'll go from there. Start with Councillor McLean. Okay, go ahead, Councillor McLean.
All right, you chose me, so here we go.
I knew, I was warned.
So start with some business stuff. The Ferry Advisory Committee is tentatively planning a meeting for October 27th. I will be attending that. It's still in the council role because I think our term isn't quite over at that point. But I am willing to work with the new council and take any feedback that they have. So I'll be in consultation with them. BC Ferries has also submitted their proposal to the BC Ferries Commission for a new contract, which is known as Performance Term 6. So it's available on the BC Ferry Commission website, but I thought I would share a few highlights from that proposal. So in the near term, which they term as approximately 2025, there's going to be an increase in sailings in the spring and fall with a supplementary vessel and an increase in summer service to 7 days a week with that supplementary vessel. So that's good short-term changes with the ferries that we currently have. And then in the medium term, which they term as 2030, they're going to do vessel procurement to provide a higher frequency two-ship service in spring and fall aligned with higher frequency peak service. So that's our two-ship service for most of the year coming in 2030. So further to that, a new incremental major vessel will support both frequency and needed additional capacity between Swartz Bay and Tsawwassen during the peak season, and then between Langdale and Horseshoe Bay during the off-peak and shoulder season. So it's kind of serving two purposes with that new boat. They have reviewed some of their capital plans, and the Langdale terminal development was deemed non-essential. And due to tight financial constraints, they are no longer including our Langdale redevelopment in the plan. However, they are planning to do a full berth rebuild of the main berth in Langdale in 2027. Finally, the scope and scale of the Horseshoe Bay redevelopment project has been reduced from their previous plans. And they look to be doing some of that work in Performance Term 7 or 8. So that's 10 to 15 years from now. So that's my BC Ferries update. And since this is the last council meeting, I wanted to share a couple things. I look back to 4 years ago. I was running in the election, like some of you are now, with some ideas to shape a better Sechelt. I want to use my last time speaking to you all today to review some of my platform and how we've done over the term, just for accountability's sake and a review. So my first plank was community leadership. I wanted to list this one first because I think it's actually the most important role of a councillor. One of the things I proposed was a community grant program. On this one, I pushed really hard for the establishment of a regional social services contribution service. But ultimately, that decision was deferred at the SCRD to 2023. So I hope that the future SCRD board can pick up that conversation and keep that important program, start that important program of funding regional social services. The second point was creating standing committees. Done, check. We just talked about it. So I'll move on from there. Funding for community associations. I'm really proud that we created the COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant Program. This program provided nearly $150,000 to not-for-profit associations for rebuilding community connections as we came out of lockdowns. So a lot of good work in the community leadership program over the last 4 years. In housing, it's our biggest challenge. I wish we did more sooner. But like I said, I spent a lot of time spinning my wheels trying to understand how local government works and trying to create a feasible program. But within that, there's a few things I wanted to do. I wanted to create a district of Sechelt housing specialist. We now have something like that. We have a policy planner on our staff who has experience in housing policy from previous work in the city of Vancouver. I'm really proud that we're able to add that position. But the crowning achievement, which Brenda mentioned earlier, is the creation of the Sunshine Coast Housing Action Table. And from that action table, there were 3 new positions purely focused on solving our housing crisis. We have a regional housing coordinator, emergency housing coordinator, and a rent of incentives coordinator. All of these paid positions are going to really allow us to further our housing policy across the Sunshine Coast and really shift the conversation on housing in the next few years. Walkability. I wanted to use a walkability lens on development. I think I've spoken consistently on in support of developments near services such as transit, parks, and schools. Building trails as outlined in the Sechelt Parks in the master plan. A big one I mentioned was the Davis Bay to Trail Bay linkage. I don't think that project's quite feasible anymore. Really, the big way it's going to happen is by putting the trail on the Sunshine Coast Highway through Summer Park, and with the province's proposal to leave the highway there, I don't think that one's going to happen. So that one was a bit of a miss, but we are building trails elsewhere, including some of the work around Kinnickinnic Park in West Sechelt. Customer service. I had a big plank around that. However, I kind of pivoted in how I wanted to focus on customer service. So less so in doing training and more about building capacity. So I think we've done a lot of work in building capacity in our team to provide great customer service to anyone coming in. And finally, I had a water platform. I advocated for building the reservoir. I hoped it could be done by 2027. Here we are in 2023 or 2022, and we have a potential to have a new water source online in 2023. So although I was in the wrong direction on this one, we are doing better than what I was hoping for. I was hoping we could have it done in a few years from now, but we're much closer than I thought. On water meters, these will be coming to your front yard in the next couple of year. So I think that's a good win for us. And finally, the Chapman Lake drawdown. This was another one where I benefited from learning. I think I've really learned about the impacts of climate change and the challenges of having a single source for our water system. We need a resilient water system. And I think I've learned that that's not continuing to rely solely on Chapman Creek to provide all of our water. So that's kind of my platform. I think we did fairly well. This council had an ability to work together on our shared priorities. And from my platform's perspective, we did all right. I am really proud of what we've accomplished in the last 4 years. And I hope after whatever happens after October 15th, much of this work is not undone. Council relies on our staff to do 98% of the work around here. We make the decisions, but they execute it. I wanted to sincerely thank our staff team for a wonderful term, and I wish you all the best moving forward. It's been my honor to serve the people of Sechelt for the last 4 years, and I also want to thank each and every resident for how much I've learned and grown over the term. It's truly been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we went online. Who wants to start here? Oh, still online. Councillor Scott, over to you.
Yeah, no, it actually is tough to pick up from Matt there, but a few more of the other notable accomplishments are, some of the infrastructure stuff that we did. We did a lot of beautiful improvements on Trail Avenue. The airport was a big win to finally get some safety improvements on that. So we did really well in getting stuff like that along. Definitely some more work to go on the infrastructure, but it's coming, and I hope the next council keeps the momentum going. As Councillor McLean stated, I think we had a great team. We had a diverse team with a bunch of different backgrounds that covered a lot of the different aspects that we need to have on council, and I was really thankful for that. I learned a lot from everybody. I learned a lot about the process. You know, one of the main reasons for me running for council 4 years ago is I didn't understand the process. I didn't understand why things happen the way they do. And it was a huge eye opener for me. And now, just sitting back after 4 years, I'm not seeking re-election, but I'll definitely be an advocate for the next council and ensuring that the message gets out and the communication is out. So people I talk to who question why things go the way they do, I'll be able to far better speak to why things happen that way. And the staff were great. Enjoyed working with everybody, and you know, it makes life that much easier, certainly for us. And in the beginning, the patience that they gave us, with bulk of us being new council, it was greatly appreciated, and very thankful for that. But look forward to seeing what happens on October 15th, and I will always relish my time with this group. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the end of the table. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, well, all the committees that I was supposed to attend over the last month or so have all of them canceled on me. So anyways, you know, this has been a great council to be part of. You know, everybody's done their homework and showed up and ready to make good decisions for the community. I shouldn't pick out anybody out of the staff, but Ms. Roberts has done a great job in HR. You know, when we came on as a council, I believe that there was definitely we needed some new talent, and she was. You know, she's got a great mix of talent on our staff. You know, especially when it's hard to recruit people. Yeah, and staff has been great to work with. You know, bringing forward projects in a good fashion and supporting council. You know, bylaw 580. I mean, I know, like, 11 years ago we started to try and get a bylaw change, and here we are, finally getting that done. And the same with the cloud permit. We started that, you know, probably 10 years ago to try to implement some kind of computer system, and to have that finally in and working and in you know, just a few months, and getting compliments back from the community. So that's pretty good. Yeah. And so I'd like to thank the staff and the council and the community for the support that I have received. And just in case we have another computer malfunction and need a good book, the trilogy for Artie will be available at Telwyn Books by Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Toth.
I actually did a little bit of work. On September 30th, I attended the Reconciliation and CIA event with the Seashell Nation, including the opening of the new Orange Crosswalks and the walk down to the waterfront and then back up to the government offices there. Also, you know, as part of that, I got to do my final duty as acting mayor for September, accepting a gift from the CIA group for being such, for the district of Seashell being such good partners with that organization. That's it for the actual work part of things. I just want to say thank you to all of our staff that have worked with us over the last 4 years. I know we haven't always been easy to get along with, but you've made it work, and you've made it a much more enjoyable experience than I think it would be if you know, we didn't have the staff here that we have. So I have a few things that I wish we had gotten to or had done better, but here we are. Despite COVID, here we are. I hope that the next council is able to keep moving forward, regardless of who it is that's sitting at this table in just a couple of weeks. And to those who criticize us but didn't put their names forward for election, I'm disappointed to not see your names on the ballot. And then finally, I just want to say thank you to Lynn and to Pam, who come out to almost all of our meetings and at least keep us company, even if we don't always agree with you. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, it is good to have a couple fans in the audience, even if they're not fans. I as well attended Truth and Reconciliation Day, and it was stunning. I don't know how our turnout compares to other communities, but it feels like it's pretty massive for a community our size, and that feels pretty great. Obviously, Alton and the mayor and myself have attended a few all-candidate forums, and Alton and I hosted a meet and greet for the candidates on Sunday that was very well attended by the community, which I was very pleased with. So thank you to everyone that was involved in that. I ended the latest, the Chamber All Candidates Forum quoting Premier Hourigan at UBCM by saying that you can run for election, you can run with your platform and all your ideas, and you're fresh and energetic and all the things that you want to do, but it's really the events that shape what your term is like. And the one thing I know for sure, besides death and taxes, is that there was no other four-year term that was like this one that we just lived through. And so, speaking personally, the sitting at the council table was pretty much how I thought it was going to be. My job as a nurse, however, I could never have predicted what the 4 years have been like. So my thanks to staff is really around, and to council, is how you guys, I don't want to get emotional, but how you guys were able to mobilize this community for us to look after each other, so that down in the big house, we could make sure that we were getting ready to look after all you guys, because nobody had any idea what was going to happen. And that's a massive accomplishment, and I don't think that should go unnoticed. The other piece is one of the things I'm most proud about, I think, is that we've made the district of Sechelt somewhere that people want to work again. And I think Ms. Roberts has had a huge part in that as well. And nothing gives me as much joy as knowing that we've gotten tons of applications for a job. Because in a community this size, if you don't have the staff to do the work, it doesn't take, you only need to be down a couple positions and it all falls apart, let's face it. So I think that's a huge accomplishment. And so here we are, our last meeting, we've got the baton, we're ready to hand it off. And whatever happens a week Saturday, it's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kuster.
You sure?
Okay. On last Friday, I wore my orange shirt for National Truth and Reconciliation Day. This day, of course, is very important to my family. I was so happy to see all the people wearing their orange shirts, walking with the Sechelt Nation in the journey together for reconciliation. So I hope everyone took a moment to learn, reflect, and remember the children on that day. I want to also, well, first, I have been watching the all candidates meetings. They've been really, it's been really good to get to know everyone. And of course, I'm not running again. And I want to thank actually everyone who put their name forward. It's a daunting task, and as I've been through it, I know what they're going through, and I really appreciate them doing that. And for those that actually get elected, if it's their first time, I want to just say to them to make sure they have big shoulders and don't get discouraged from the negativity that some of the community may show them, because this community is great and there's a lot of amazing people in this community that that make this community work. So it's been an honor to be here for the last 4 years, and this council's been great, and the staff. I have a new appreciation for you. I appreciate everything you do, and thank you for the last 4 years. It's been amazing.
All right. I can't match all of that. You guys have said a lot. I want to mention a couple of things. Community forest. The community forest, actually, I think we were instrumental in having them move a different direction this term. And I think they're going to, the community is starting to recognize who they are and what they do. And I think they're reflecting more our community values. So thank you for council support for that. Councillor Toth for being a liaison with me on that board. I think we did some good work there. I want to mention a couple other things. I want to mention a meeting I had today, because staff will be getting a call. I had a meeting with the Ministry of Transportation today. It was a staff meeting as a follow-up to our Union of BC Municipality meeting that we had with them. And there's a recognition that our budgeting and their budgeting needs to work together. And so they will be reaching out within the next couple of weeks, because they're in their budget cycle right now, to both us, Town of Gibson's, and the Sunshine Coast Regional District to talk about what our projects are and what their projects are. They have a 1-year plan they're putting together for some of the funding, but they also have a 5-year plan. And they're looking at being more open and sharing that with us so that we can plan together. So I think that's a good step forward. In January, they would be looking at coming and meeting with the new council and board. Not the right time right now, but to start that conversation with them at that point, and then meeting at least yearly, but maybe more often at the higher level, so that we can work together. I mean, one of the examples that we've shared with them is with regards to Reed Road and with Davis Bay here. There was capital works being done, but no communication around how the regional district, with regards to Reed Road, could work with them on adding active transportation, even though they have the funds. Here, I brought up that there was a project for Davis Bay in their capital plan, and then it vanished, and we didn't know. So we were looking at doing sidewalks in Davis Bay. So it's having that ongoing communication, I think, will really benefit the municipality and the Sunshine Coast. Church Road Wellfield. I just want to mention this. This is something that came up in conversation with some of the directors at the regional district today. There are many people in the district of Sechelt who don't recognize that the Church Road Wellfield will actually help provide water to Sechelt. So the Church Road Wellfield is down in Langdale. It is going to be a well field that will come on and feed water into that system at that end, but because it's doing that, it is also supplying water to Sechelt. So there are many people who assume that it's not part of our water system. It is. So we're waiting for that to come forward. All right, I want to talk to council. And this will be tough. You guys have been amazing. You came prepared all the time. You took my well, the CAO would come to me and say, this person's doing this, because he would give me the staff perspective, which I didn't have. And he'd say, this is how it's appearing to staff. And so I would talk to councillors and say, this is how we're coming across. And you took the criticism, the advice, and we formed into a really well-running team. So you came prepared. You voiced your opinion. You didn't have to agree, and yet we'd leave the meeting and everybody would get along. And that's critical. And it made a huge difference. Staff. CAO, you run a tight ship. So yes, you know, you helped pick Ms. Roberts, right? You helped pick the head of planning and finance and everything else. So you're actually creating that team, and you hold them accountable, and you get them to get things done. And I mean, you provided us with a list at the end of this term about all of the stuff that we did that we totally lost track of. So thank you. Thank you for what you did. Thank you to staff. It's been an honor and a privilege. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you. Yeah, when's the last time a CAO lasted full term? I don't know. Okay. Over to our SCRD report.
Thank you. My SCRD report's attached. We only had a couple meetings during that period. The next one's going to be an important one. The next meeting that we have, I guess it's on Thursday next week, there is going to be a water supply update. And the SCRD has stepped up messaging, both news releases, and they've also started producing video clips to try and inform the public a little bit more about where we're at with our water situation. I don't know if the mayor wants to add on to that, but otherwise I'm happy to take any questions about what is here in my report.
Any questions for Councillor Toth on his report? Seeing none, we have...
Hang on.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment because I don't know how we're getting any work done because I've got this no politics at work thing that I've been doing for 4 years, but the water never stops. Like the water conversation this week has not stopped. And I'm absolutely stunned, like you say, that people have no idea that those wells, that Church should be up, but for a supply chain, that Langdale's in progress, that they feed the SCRD, that's going to, it's separate in their minds, and these are well-educated people. So I was really glad to see Remco doing that video today. That looks like it's getting lots of views. But I have to say I'm a bit gobsmacked at how uninformed a lot of people are on this issue. So that's it.
Okay, so I'll say something about that. I mean, I think we all know that we're in a dire situation with regards to water, right? We really are. And the regional district infrastructure team particularly, but others, they're working like crazy to put together the plan, right? There are all kinds of options that we have, and they're working hard to put those in kind of in sequence, like we do this first, and we do this first, and we do this first. And by next week, Thursday, they will have a plan, and it will be presented to the community so the community knows what our path forward is. Currently, there is no water on the horizon. Like, there's no rain on the horizon for us. And we have had less water this year than the last number of years in a row. And so our current system is not being recharged. And we can't do anything about that. We can't do anything about that. It's all to do with the climate change. So they're doing a lot of work. We need to guarantee a water supply to the community for at least until we get rain, and they have options. And we will be presenting them to the community on Thursday next week. So I'm hoping everybody tunes in and finds out what they are, and then what everybody can do as their part in that, because we all have a part to play in this. Do you want to say something else? Go ahead.
Yeah, since we're talking about water, it's easy to point blame, point fingers. You know, I was all ready to throw the provincial government under the bus when I turned my microphone back on, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. As was presented to us earlier, that chart showing the amount of rain that had been received in the last 3 months compared to the last 5 years in the same period was startling. And I think staff got the message loud and clear that needs to go out to the community as well. The staff have an analogy where they like to compare the watershed to a sponge. And so, you know, even when the sponge starts to run dry, you can still usually wring a little bit of water out of it. But we're in a situation now where that sponge is so dry that any water that's being released from the lake is being absorbed by the environment. So right now, for every 100 liters of water that's released from Chapman Lake, only 30 liters is making it to the intake. So they're losing 70% of the water in the watershed just between the lake and the intake. And then another thing that I don't think gets talked about enough is that the environmental flow needs that we have to maintain for the creek, for the fish. If we're using 10 million liters a day, which has been pretty close to where we've been, 10 million liters, 10,000 cubic meters, they're actually releasing another 17 million liters for the fish, for the just to meet the environmental flow needs that the province mandated back in 2017. The number wasn't as high before that. So that's 27 million liters a day, plus what's being lost in the watershed itself. So those are tremendous numbers that just aren't really out there.
All right. Let's move on to correspondence. I'd look for motion to receive the correspondence. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. So this is a request for a letter of support. And this letter is also going out to Gibsons and the Sechelt Nation. We are looking at applying at the regional district for a grant to do coastal flood mapping. And this would happen all up and down the coast. So I would look for a motion to provide a letter of support. Moved, seconded, all in favor. Thank you. All right. One final item and one final time we hear this. Are there any emergency items?
There are no emergency items, Your Worship, but I would like to take this brief moment. No, it's okay. On behalf of staff, just to say thank you to council. It's this past 4 years has been an absolute pleasure working with you all. I know staff has been very appreciative of the support that they've received over the 4 years and what we've managed to accomplish. It's been a great term, one of the best I've ever had in my career. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, I would look for a motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded, all in favor. Thank you.